So today we'll continue that same one act play, that is The Stronger Woman, written by John Strindberg. So what is that story? We have understood yesterday the opening scene of this one act play. There are two characters, major characters, that Mrs. X and Miss Y. These two characters, they are actually friends, formal as well as you may say informal, and these two were actresses from theater, and that's why they knew each other in the beginning itself. We have that type of means that introduction of Mrs. X and Miss Y, that they knew each other and they greet each other in one cafe, and in that they started talking. But actually we find that Mrs. X only talks and this Miss Y keeps silence all over that in this that one act play you can see she is silent. So why she is silent? Because she has certain that affair with this Bob. Who is Bob? Bob is third character, though that Mr. Bob doesn't appear on the surface level of this one act play. Here so many times there is that reference of Mr. Bob, and all that story that happens due to Mr. Bob, because Mr. Bob has affair with Miss Y, and of course being a wife, this Mrs. X dislikes all that behavior of her husband, Mr. Bob, and she wants to say something to Miss Y, but suddenly when she meets this Miss Y, she could not say anything, but later on she gradually says all that expresses her grief, and she tells how it is very painful for her that this Miss Y has an affair with her husband. So first of all she presented herself that she is a very good friend and she is normally talking to her, but later on you can find that Mrs. X becomes very unhappy, and she unfolds her grief before Miss Y, and how that Miss Y has encroached all her life, and due to that Mrs. X has to adopt all those things which are there in Miss Y, so that her husband would be attracted towards her. So in that way that whole life is occupied by Miss Y, life of Bob as well as Mrs. Hughes, because that Mr. Bob is attracted towards Miss Y. So in this way you have that name also of this Miss Y, that is Millie, and in the beginning itself Mrs. X calls her with this name, and on that Christmas these two met together, but Mrs. X points out that Miss Y is not looking happy because she is unmarried, and due to one breakup, or that she was going to marry one man, this Miss Y, but anyhow that marriage could not happen, and that due to that Miss Y again returns to her job or profession, that is of actress, and in that way Mrs. X says that that would be better if you be married and you would be having your own family, and now you are single and that's why you can't enjoy. So actually Mrs. X also says that that Miss Y was happy when she was there in the family of her fiance, when she was there going to marry with that fiance, but later on they could not retain or maintain the relationship, and they could not even marry, and that's why this Miss Y is there unmarried, and she's been having that affair with this Mr. Bob. So all that background of Miss Y is in the beginning given to us by this Mrs. X only. That story is unfolded and that is put forth before us. So all the character of even Miss Y is given to us by this Mrs. X. So here at the end of first page we can see that this is the expression of Mrs. X for Miss Y. Millie, I am not at all sure that you wouldn't have done better to have kept him. If you come to think of it, I was the first to ask you to forgive him at the time. Don't you remember why you could have been married now and have had a home? Do you remember how delighted you were at Christmas when you stayed with your fiance's people in the country miss village? You were quite enthusiastic over domestic happiness and quite keen on getting away from the theatre. After all, my dear Amelia, there is nothing like home, sweet home, after the profession, of course, and the kids, isn't it so? But you couldn't understand that. See, in this way, she, due to hatred, says that you are unmarried and it is good having family, and you broke your that marital relationship, or you just being a single, doing such type of affairs with other men. So something indirectly she wanted to suggest that family is good than having such type of professional life in theater. So this is how that being a friend, she directly commented these things to that Miss Y. Miss Y. See, what is that answer to this type of suggestion? So Miss Y just looks towards that Mrs. X without any type of anger or irritation. So you can see here there is that gesture. Then Mrs. X so drinks some spoonful of chocolate out of her cup, then opens the basket and looks at that Christmas presents there. Let me show you what I have bought for my little chicks. Takes up a doll. Just look at this. That is for Lisa. Just look. It can roll its eyes and waggle its neck. What? And here is Maja's cork pistol that loads and shoots at Miss Y. So there are two presents in the basket of Mrs. X. One is for her daughter, one is for her son. She has the doll for her daughter Lisa, and that pistol is for her son. And she puts the cork inside the pistol and she shoots that Miss Y. In that way, she shows her inner irritation or that hatred for this Miss Y. So Miss Y gives a start. So at that time, Miss Y just keeps the pistol in her hand and later on she does nothing. Here again, Miss X says a lot to this Miss Y. What she says: "Are you frightened? Did you think I wanted to shoot you, dear?" So again, she just for the sake of knowing that emotions from Miss Y, she says so many things to her, but there is no answer to this expression by Mrs. X. So she asks whether that means shooting of pistol frightened Miss Y or not. Upon my word, I would never have thought you would have thought that. I would have been much less surprised if you would wanted to shoot me for getting in your way. So this is the first time she says something which is very different from whatever she has been making show of. So for the first time she says that for getting in your way means you are in love with my husband and you are having affair with him, and I am in your way in that way, and I felt that you want to shoot me. I know that you can never forget anything. So this is how in bracket it's very important thing. So you remember everything. I know that. Mrs. X says, although I was absolutely innocent, you believed, of course, that I worked it to get you out of the Grand Theatre, but I didn't do that. I didn't do it, although you think I did. But it makes no odds my saying all this, for you always think it was me. Takes out a pair of embroidered slippers. So actually what happened, that Mrs. X was wife of that clerk, Mr. Bob, who was very prominent in that theater. And according to this Miss Y, that Mrs. X is the reason why she is that thrown out of that grand theater. And here, due to that only, this Miss Y is having some grief for her joblessness, or she doesn't have now that role in that grand theater. So she says that I am not the responsible person for that thing. I don't know how that grand theater uh, threw you out of that particular theater. So it is not in my hand anyway, she says. So this is how that thing is there. Miss Y looks up ironically and curiously from her that paper, holds a slipper up, and she shows that slipper. Actually, she bought that slipper for her husband and holds a slipper up in each hand. Just look what that small feet Bob has. You should just see, dear, how well he carries himself. But of course, you have never seen him in slippers, have you, dear? So you are not the family member of Bob, so you can't see him in slipper. So this is how I am his wife. Again and again, she wants to suggest that Miss Y as means that you are not the person who is close to him. Being wife, I am the person who does everything for him. So she here stressed all these things. Miss Y laughs loudly. So here that expression of Miss Y says that how foolish this Mrs. X is, because Mrs. X's husband, Mr. Bob, is deeply in love with me, and whatever he uses is according to my choice. So how foolish this wife is. So this is how that expression of Miss Y suggests. Mrs. X, look, you must see. She walks the slippers upon the table. So again Miss Y laughs loudly. Then Mrs. X, just see here. This is the way he always stamps about whenever he is out of the sorts. Like this, yeah. That damned girl will never learn how to bake coffee. Oh, and now that a confounded idiot has trimmed the lamp wrong. The next minute there is a draught and his feet get cold. Oh, how cold it is, and that lighted fool can never manage to keep the fire going. She rubs the soles of the slipper one against the other. So this is how that Mrs. X tries to calm her mind, keep herself cool and tensionless because of that satirical laughter of this Miss Y. Again, Miss Y laughs out loudly. So this Mrs. X comments all these things for that waitresses and all. So this is how that this Miss Y laughs out again loudly because of that foolishness of this Mrs. X. Now see here, for the first time, Mrs. X can't control her emotions, and she expresses her grief that how this Miss Y takes over that love and charge of her husband Bob. So that this is very that sorrowful feeling of Mrs. X being cheated by her husband. So what type of grief she has, she expresses here in this particular dialogue, which is, you can see, a very lengthy dialogue, but it's very important to know about the inner thoughts of Mrs. X, what she feels. So see, and this is how he goes on when he comes home and looks for his slippers, which Mary puts under the chest of drawers. Oh, but it is a shame for me to sit here and give my husband away. He is good sort at any rate, and that is something I can tell you. Yes, you should have a husband like that, Amelia. Yes, you, my dear. What you, miss, are you laughing at? Oh, and I will tell you how I know what he is faithful, and I am sure of it, for he told me so of his own accord. That what are you giggling at? Why, when I went for a trip in Norway, that ungrateful, that Federico ran after him and tried to seduce him. Can you think of anything so disgraceful? Pause. I would have scratched the eyes out of the creature's head. That I would, if she would come playing around when I was on the scene. Pause. I was lucky that Bob told me of his own accord so that I didn't get to hear of it first from a lot of that sneaking scandalmongers. Again, pause. But that Frederick was not the only one. You may say, I didn't know, but the women are absolutely crazy over my husband. So, see, in this way, she is handling very carefully the situation. Mrs. X is handling very carefully the situation, and now she is irritated with that laughter of this Miss Y. Why she is laughing at? She knows well, because she that Miss X, Mrs. X is there, that wife of Mr. Bob, and this Miss Y thinks that this very foolish woman who cannot control her husband. And see, Mrs. X, according to her, Bob is in very prominent position in that grand theater. That's why so many actresses are behind him, so that thinking that Mr. Bob can help them to have roles in that theater. So same is the case with some Frederick, and she was there in, is behind this Mr. Bob, and according to Mrs. X, that all these women they are behind him for the sake of getting opportunity in the theater only. So in this way, that she says that Frederick also tried to have the love of her husband, and she wants to keep all these women away from her husband, Mr. Bob, you may say. But this Frederick was not the only one, you may say. I didn't know, but women are absolutely crazy over my husband. So this is how you can consider this line very important. They think he is awfully influential in getting engagements just because he hold an official position. It may be that you too have tried to run after him. See, here directly that open harsh comment is made on that Miss Y, that how she is behind Bob. I don't trust you more than need be. Anyway, I know that he doesn't bother you about you, and that you seem to have a grudge against him, and consequently against me. So you also were behind my husband, Mr. Bob, says Mrs. X, because you want to get that job or that opportunity working in that theater. But Bob always told me that he doesn't have any type of interest in any woman, and all these women are behind him due to their personal interest, according to Bob also. And that time, see, I don't trust you more that need be. Anyway, I know that he doesn't bother about you, and that you seem to have a grudge against him, and consequently against me the whole time. Pause, they look at each other with that embarrassment. Come round and see us tonight, dear, just to show that you don't feel badly about us, or at any rate about me. Don't know why, but that somehow I feel that it would be particularly ungraceful of me to be unfriendly towards you, of all people. It may be because I cut you out, speaking more slowly, or can't tell the reason. So she asks her to come to their house on the occasion of Christmas, and she says that if you don't have any grudge or hatred for me, please come to my home so that I can understand that you don't have any type of hatred for me. So this is how this Mrs. X wants to invite this Miss Y at her home, and at that time Miss Y stares at Mrs. X curiously, but there is very different type of expression of this Miss Y on her face. She is looking towards this Mrs. X very that curiously. See, here we'll stop.